Namaste, everyone. So before speaking, I will just offer my respects to my spiritual teachers, our lineage, and the Supreme Lord. Om Agna Timrandasya Gna Gna Salakaya Chaksuru Militan Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Bhaja Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Ganadhar Sri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this program that we do is called Mantra Night. So I thought I'd talk a little about mantra and, more importantly, meditation. Yesterday we had, was that yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. We had a celebration of International Yoga Day. So we're talking about yoga being a practice that is infinitely more than a system of physical exercise. And the most critically important part of yoga is the practice of meditation. Meditation is performed differently by different people and different types of paths. Many people think that the control of the mind, or just being focused and just letting everything go and relaxing and everything constitutes meditation, and it actually doesn't. These are considered preliminary activities. The process of pranayama, many people are not very aware, is to actually still the mind, to bring it into a state of being very still and quiet, not highly active. Then there is another process they do in the Ashtanga Yoga process, dharana, which means to really undergo practices to bring the mind into a singular focus. But this is not yet considered meditation. And then the meditation that was performed when one is in this state of somewhat calmness and the mind not being very active, in fact being very singularly focused, this is when the process of meditation took place. And I'll call it the mechanical process of trying to just clear the mind and remove everything from the mind is an exceedingly difficult and is in fact unnecessary. If a person utilizes this spiritual sound, this transcendental sound known as mantra, then one is able to achieve very quickly all of the intended benefits of meditation. Most people are also unaware that in the yoga system, as it was taught and practiced since ancient times, was primarily an activity where the yogis began to meditate upon a form of what they addressed as the Lord within their own heart. He is called Paramatma, or the Supreme Lord. And having undertaken this activity of focusing, bringing the mind into focus, they would now bring the mind to meditate and to completely focus upon this form of the Lord that was understood to be residing within the region of one's own heart. This form has been described by the yogis who have come to have this vision and to realize this vision. And it's all consistently the same for all of the great mystics that undertook this experience. And there is a description in one of the great yoga texts, the great Shastras, known as the Srimad Bhagavatam or the Bhagavat Puran. And it describes this process that the mystics would undergo and what they would focus upon. So it says that they meditate on this personality of Godhead, this transcendental personality, residing within the body in the region of the heart and measuring about 8 inches. They even have a description of the size of this form that would manifest in their internal meditation. They go on to describe the appearance of this personality. They said his mouth expresses happiness. His eyes are spread like the petals of a lotus, and his garments are yellowish like the saffron of the kadamba flower. And he is bedecked with valuable jewels. His ornaments are all made of gold, set with jewels, and he wears a glowing headdress and earrings. His lotus-like feet are placed over the whorls of the lotus-like hearts of the great mystics. Upon his chest is the Kaustubha jewel, engraved with a beautiful calf, and there are other jewels on his shoulders. His complete torso is garlanded with fresh flowers. He is well decorated with an ornamental wreath about his waist, and rings studded with valuable jewels on his fingers. His leglets and bangles, his oiled hair, curling with a bluish tint, and his beautiful, smiling face are all pleasing. This Lord's magnanimous pastimes and his glowing glancing of his smiling face are all indications of his extensive benedictions. So there are actually numerous accounts, but of course the idea of trying to come to have this vision of this Lord within our own heart is a very difficult undertaking, a very difficult exercise. And it was often, though, the meditation undertaken with the use of mantra. This use of mantra, the spiritual sound, is actually considered in this particular time and age to be the most effective means for coming to the platform of full self-realization and God realization. The mantra or spiritual sound that is used is different than many of the classical Vedic mantras. Within the Vedas, which are almost limitless, they are vast collection of spiritual teachings. There are groups of teachings that are associated with trying to get material benefit. This was called the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. Within another section of the Vedas, there was the Jnana Kanda, where a person endeavored to, it was usually people that were more attracted to the impersonal feature of God, this great ocean of spiritual energy and light. But within another section of the Vedas, there is a greater focus on a different type of spiritual sound. In the other parts of the Vedas, the use of mantra, you had to become expert. Number one, you had to be highly qualified. You had to undergo much training and many processes. And then you had to learn how, it took about 15 years just to study grammar in Sanskrit. Then you had to learn proper pronunciation, proper intonation, everything, the proper meter. Everything had to be perfect, and if it was not done perfectly, not only would the result not be there, one might even bring upon themselves some misfortune. But the type of mantra that is used in another section of the Vedas that I'm going to talk about is the one that does not require any training, it does not require any background. One can even mispronounce. There is no hard and fast rule for how to utilize it. The process of meditation is actually a process by which we become completely immersed in this sound. You know what an immersion tank is? You heard of these? They have like these tanks and they're completely closed. It's like being in a coffin. There is no light inside. The water is salty water, so you float in it easy, and it's warmed to close to body temperature. And you would lie in there and they would close it and then just go into this state of deep relaxation. They call them an immersion tank or an immersion chamber. The reason I'm raising this is, in reality, this is an analogy that we can use of what we should be doing to become immersed in mantra, immersed in this spiritual sound. Usually when we teach people, we begin with very simple use of some simple breathing exercise. And then and I think anybody that's been to any of these classes where you've done it or you've done it yourself, I find it's great when you actually lie down, completely relaxed. And then on the inhalation, to say the mantra mentally, and then on the exhalation, to say the mantra aloud as the breath leaves. And generally the mantra that we are using is Gauranga. Gauranga. And just by repeating it, I think most people have this experience. It's kind of like it's permeating every cell in your body. It's sort of like tingling. I remember one time we did we were conducting some meditation training in Taiwan, and we had like 300 yoga teachers. And it was the first time they'd done anything like this, and we were in a hall and everybody was lying on the floor. And it was like the whole place was just vibrating, and it was just so wonderful. And it became really easy for people to become very completely immersed in this experience. So whenever we engage in the different types of meditation I'm just going to mention very quickly, we should really make an effort for this to be a real immersion. You know, you need to go through a little bit of a process to think about what you're going to do and to prepare yourself. And there's usually an expression of the offering of great respect and the attempt to imbibe a feeling of great humility when one begins the process of this mantra meditation. So one of the ways that people can practice this is, of course, we're often on our own. We've had the experience here tonight as a group, singing these mantras together with Kirtan, which is very wonderful and which I'll talk about in a minute. But they had this ancient process known as japa. This japa is the recitation of these spiritual sounds. And what they would do, they would often use a string of beads, something like this, bigger. My preference is, of course, for wooden. They have a what's considered a very sacred wood in India, tulasi. And they make beads from this. Generally, there are 108 beads. And the reason that they would use the beads is because it helps in the immersion experience. You know, you have 5 senses. Here, you are going to be saying the mantra just audibly, loud enough that you can hear. So you're engaging speech, you're engaging hearing, and you're engaging in the sense of touch in holding these beads. And upon each bead, they would say the mantra once, and then they would go to the next bead. Usually before starting, you notice that on the string of beads is what we would refer to as a head bead. Usually the head bead is not used for the mantra meditation, but in holding this, one generally says a mantra to invoke a sense of deep respect and humility for what they are going to now undertake. And quite often the mantra Gauranga or the mantra Haribol, or Haribol, Nitai Gaur even, is chanted on this bead. And then they have this unique way of holding the beads in this meditation. They don't use this finger. They usually use these two fingers, the thumb and the next finger in. And this is meant to be a reminder of something. This actually represents the false ego, the false concept of I. You notice when people get angry, you know, or they feel proud, I, you know. So this is really used in promoting false concepts, false ideas, and this false ego concept. So, or not concept, this thing that controls us. So after having chanted once on the head bead, they hold the first bead and either just hold it or roll it back and forward. Then they would chant a mantra like Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana. Then going to the next bead, Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana. Then they would go all the way around. And once they reach the head bead, once again they offer their deep respects and try to adopt a mood of humility, chanting the mantra on the head bead, then proceed back or turn it around. They usually don't cross over. That was considered a sign of disrespect to one's spiritual teachers or to the Supreme. So this was something that people can do walking around the house, walking outside, sitting down comfortably. It is a process that you can do to experience this immersion. What is the necessity of this immersion? You know, we don't actually appreciate how much we are controlled by wrong ideas. The ideas that I am the body, I am from a certain country, I am a certain racial extraction or a certain sex or whatever, all these different identities connected with the body. And then we live out a massive fantasy called life based on these false ideas. And we spend our whole life just going through this whole experience, developing so many attachments, feeling aversions, friends, enemies, all this, just constant, it's like a ride in a theme park, roller coaster, of a life. And then you come to the end of it, and everything that you were deeply attached to, and everything that was so important now gets taken away in a moment. This is called death. And everything that you held so dear and to be so important just like evaporates. And you go on, you move on, and you take another birth, and you go through the same experience again. And in each lifetime, you think that all the stuff that's important to you is like everything. This is everything to you. So we are deeply entangled in so many material conceptions, and it deprives us of experiencing our true spiritual identity and engaging in what is our natural function. The process of meditation, what it does is it takes the mind and it takes you, the spiritual being within the body, and you become immersed, like in an immersion chamber, in this spiritual sound. And what it is doing is cleaning away the layers which cover us. There is actually a description in the Bhagavad Puran that says that through this process, that the subtle body, made up of the mind, the intelligence, and the false ego, becomes dissolved. In the same way that food, when it is put into the stomach, becomes digested by the fire of digestion. So in some meditation processes, they would struggle so hard to become free from all these layers covering us, to experience our true spiritual identity. But without undertaking that great difficulty, simply by becoming immersed in this spiritual sound, this transcendental sound, one is able to come to this experience of a total awakening of your true self and the experience of true spiritual love and great spiritual wisdom and insight. The most powerful way that one can experience this is through what's called Kirtan. Kirtan can be performed alone, just like we sing together these mantras. You can do it on your own. You can put on a MP3 player or whatever, your phone, and you can play and sing along with it, or pick up an instrument, or just clap your hands, or not even do that, and just become absorbed in this. But there is a particular powerful potency attached to what is called Sankirtan. This Sangha means like the association, coming together. When people come together and they engage in this process of Kirtan, there is actually no means that is more powerful for bringing about true self-realization and God realization during this period in time. Some people think of it in terms of, well, you get out of it what you put into it. But it's not really like that. Meaning, the example is given, just like today, we barely got to see the sun, right? It's a pretty cloudy day, pretty miserable and rainy. Does it mean the sun is not there? No. There are clouds, we say, covering the sun. Actually, that is wrong. The clouds are not covering the sun. If you go over to the Gold Coast, on the same time that you've got clouds here, you're not going to have anything covering the sun there, pretty much, unless it's a particularly crappy day. So the clouds don't actually cover the sun. They come in between you and the sun and make it so you cannot see. When you approach this meditation process with a deep feeling of humility and you try to be focused, the focus doesn't mean that you have to struggle so hard. Your mind, is like a monkey. It's just like insanity in there. It's all over the place. You don't have to physically almost, if I can call it physically, it's mentally actually, just try to squeeze it into one place and make you follow it. No, if it's doing its thing, you just realize, okay, I'm wandering in my thinking. I simply bring my mind back and I try to focus once again just by listening, by attentively listening. And I should cultivate this desire to be immersed, just as you'd go into the water in an immersion chamber, to become immersed in this transcendental sound, to take shelter within it. If one can do this, they can take the sound in through the ears, into their heart, and immerse themselves and take shelter there. Then one will feel a very profound effect. There will be a very strong effect. And it will not be too long before one comes to a very wonderful spiritual experience and awakening. Okay? So that's mantra meditation. We good with that? Anybody have a question? No, it's pretty straightforward. Do we have a guitar around here somewhere? So we will now, of course, chant, and let us try to put into practice what we just heard about. Thank you very much. Krishna Haribol.